Welcome to this episode of the 94twenty podcast, where we talk about the music that we love and the industry that we tolerate. Hey everyone, that was We'll Be All Right by Gabrielle Grace. Welcome to this episode of the 94twenty podcast. And if you are familiar with that voice, it is because we have actually featured Gabrielle's other singles on the podcast before. So hi Carl, hi Greg, how are you guys doing today?
Hey
Nicole, hey Greg.
Hey Carl.
I like that song. You know, I like her. She's kind of I think she's from a small town in Texas. I think I saw her Bridge City, Texas. I don't even know where that is, but that's where she's from. Something just really kind of, again, I use this word authentic about her that I seem to like.
I like the kind of throwback nature of the production. I mean, for me, it's kind of dream pop, circa late '80s, '90s. I think it's cool. It's got that Roland. It's got that Roland 808 snare drum at the beginning, and I thought, oh my, that's really out front. And then they go from a 80s Roland snare drum to, in the chorus, there's like this big, wet 90s snare drum. So I think that's a study in snare drum. But
I think that's the subtitle of the song. It's called "We'll Be All Right." Parentheses study in snare drum.
Provided we can put a bunch of snare drums in the track. Yeah, I actually like it. I've seen a trend develop over the last couple years where I guess it's because I'm getting old, but I heard all this 90s production and 80s production the first time around, and it's nostalgic for me to hear it now. I know that younger folks are thinking this is cool, and it is cool. It's a nice mix, and I like where her vocal sets on the track.
It's funny. As usual, that reminds me of a story.
Yeah, right.
Carl and
Here
his
we
stories.
go.
Is it?
Well,
Is it a back in the day story?
Up.
No. Oh. It's a back in the day. No, but really, and it has nothing to do with this kind of music, but it's about how like trends coming back, right? And I don't think they'll get mad. Someone I used to know from back in the day. He used to rehearse in the same rehearsal hall as we. When I was this is like the late '70s, the early '80s. In the studio next door was Dee from Twisted Sister.
Yeah,
and they were they were like at the time just the biggest Long Island bar band. They were doing like Bowie shows and Lou Reed shows and JJ the guitarist, and they were just playing the big clubs in Long Island, and they wanted to be big and stuff. But and they were doing all this like long hair glitter rock, right? And then the 80s came in this new wave, and they were so outdated, right? But they just kept doing the rock and the hair rock.
Yeah, I mean,
no, they were outdated, and they told them, "Why don't you guys change?" No, we're doing this. They just kept doing it. They did it so long until it came around again. And they were like
right.
Cutting edge of pop metal, And the thing is, they just never changed, So
what was the like the public hearings that were held? What was the rating that Tipper Gore put forward? And they had
Zappa was on it.
Did you ever see Dee's?
I may have
witnessed, or he was actually he was called to testify.
We're not going to take it.
Hearing.
Their song.
Was it I forget what it was called. That shows you how long it was. But yeah, there used to be this big uproar about, really the appropriateness of songs and hidden messages and all this.
No, it was just
malarkey
in lyrics.
The Tipper Gore thing.
No, it was just profanity in lyrics.
I remember but they were talking about backwards masking and all this crazy stuff.
Oh, devil worship and that stuff, right?
But I remember Dee getting up there, and it was extraordinary. Dee is a very, very smart guy. And he was
a great guy.
He just actually laid those knuckleheads to waste and said, you don't understand what you're hearing. You don't understand what you're seeing. And there's a good deal of parody in what we do. And it was just, it was really great. I would encourage anybody that doesn't know about that time, quotes, back in the day, I would encourage everybody to go to YouTube and look at Dee Snider's testimony before the Senate hearing regarding, I think it had something to do with parental guidance. I wish I could remember.
Well, they did. Because of that, they put stickers on albums. There were stickers on CDs.
And I remember feeling so put upon that I can't believe that this parental guidance thing is on this album that I'm thinking that I should buy. And then I remember distinctly having small kids and having them peruse the record store and me checking for that insignia so that I could make sure that what they were hearing wasn't prurient.
And you made sure all the records they bought
so I thought,
had that.
Wow, exactly. So, I guess there might.
You ain't buying this record if there ain't no profanity. That's it.
Of course, my kids came up listening to rap, so I mean, they wouldn't listen to any of the edited versions of anything. It's like, Dad,
right?
I can't be listening to edited versions of these songs.
But anyway, but getting back to what you're saying, so you're right. So things just come around again, like everything that's old. Like I got rid of my D50, my Roland D50, and I used to have a Yamaha. But now if you had it, it's like retro. It's so cool to have. But now you just get the plug-in that does it.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, and it's okay. So to bring up the music industry too, it's the same as fashion. I mean, things that are very old are now new again, and some things shouldn't be new again, but they are. So
But why do some things like fashion? I'll use fashion, which like all my girlfriends will think, who am I speaking on fashion?
Oh,
I know
Lord.
nothing. But for some reason, certain fashion, like why is it that like the 70s you see 70s fashion with the big collars and the shoes, like it's horrendous. And some of the new wave stuff in the 80s is so tacky. But why is the 60s still so cool? It was always cool. Carnaby Street 65, the turtlenecks, the Chanel, Coco, all that stuff is still hip. It
Yeah.
always was.
Have,
Why does certain trends just never left or
well, I
we
wonder
never got
if
weird?
I wonder if it's because a lot of the trends that emerged in the 60s actually are a little bit more timeless than the pieces from like the 70s and 80s and even 90s.
Yeah, but why are they timeless? What makes them more timeless? It's just
I think it's the look, it's the simplicity about them. Like the shirts that you're talking about and like the way that people carried themselves. I mean, it's one of those things that people strive for as opposed to maybe more of like the kitschy stuff from like the 70s and 80s.
right.
I think
But-
one of our little side hustles here is that we recommend documentaries. Have you seen the documentary on Carnaby Street?
I'm not.
I mentioned there's a lot of them. Where is there one
I'm
specific one you know?
Well, I'm frantically looking on the pad.
Of course, the pad has to make an appearance.
I'm trying
When
to
anyone
find out.
who needs to know when we reference the pad, Greg has this first generation Apple iPad from 1947. How would you get it?
Yeah.
And it's like it doesn't even do anything. It can't even get email, but that's what he uses to like connect to the world
He
with.
can
at the
draw
time.
on it though.
It's
No, he
called. It
can't.
was
Yes, he
made
can.
in 2000.
No, he can't.
It was made in 2011. It's called Carnaby Street Undressed. I highly recommend it. It gets 5 stars on the
Gregathon.
Richter scale. There, the GRIMDB. Yeah.
Right.
So, but
Well,
no,
yeah,
it's
definitely.
it's really tremendous. And what I didn't realize is that everybody had stores back in the days in the 70s. We had in Middle America, we had these stores actually move from Carnaby Street to Middle America into the malls, and there was my favorite was a store called Chess King. It was so
I remember
cool.
Chess King,
Yeah.
sure.
And you would go in there and it would reek of patchouli.
Yeah,
and,
but it was always cheesy, cheapo knockoffs of the stuff. It wasn't the real stuff.
It might not have been the real stuff, but it was certainly vibey and trendy, and we thought we were really cool. There was another one called J. Riggins.
You know what? We had in Long Island, we had a thing called Sid's Pants. It was called Sid's Pants. And there was a few of them in the malls. But to me, the people who, it wasn't so much the Beatles for me, it was the Monkeys fashion, those double-breasted shirts.
Oh, yeah.
Remember those? And they used to have the cool flowered shirts with the white collars and white cuffs.
Yep.
Or else they have the Garrison belts with the round buckle.
And
I used to love all that stuff.
The platform shoes and
No, I had the Cuban Beetle boots. I had the suede Beetle boots, and I had all that nonsense. I had a Nehru jacket. I had my Nehru.
I'm thinking about bringing the Nehru back. I'm also thinking about bringing back the Apache scarf.
I don't know what that is.
Well, instead of if you look at old episodes of Mannix, for example, instead of wearing a tie,
Mannix. You're really gonna get a lot of people like, what the hell? They're gonna go, what the hell is Mannix?
The best thing about this podcast is they discover new things.
You say Mannix, and we can go ahead and do the boy on that one. Too.
Pretty much. That's a.
But Mannix. Mannix, there was a period of time, I think it was on for several seasons. It's actually a really great show. But
Mike somebody, right?
Mike Connors was his
Mike
name.
Connors,
Yeah.
right.
Very nice guy, evidently. But he's gone on to his reward now, to TV heaven. But the thing that used to be so cool is if you go back and look at those old episodes, you can see like the fashion trends, and they were like being fashion forward with the main characters. And Mike used to wear these things instead of wearing like a traditional tie. it was just a kind of a paisley scarf or a silk scarf. And they sold these
like an
little
ascot
rings.
kinda?
It looked kind of like an ascot, right? But I think
like a neckerchief.
a neckerchief. But I think that I
used to have those.
I
In
think
the
the
Boy Scouts.
correct name is Apache scarf.
Oh wow!
And so I remember going into
Those are lame, man.
Oh man, I think they're so cool. I'm bringing them back. So if we ever,
or how about this one? How about I used to have this red velour with a black Dickie. Remember the Dickies?
Oh yeah.
Do you know what a Dickie is, Nicole?
I don't, but I feel like you and Greg need
Oh,
to submit
Dickie-
pictures
a
from
Dickie-
your childhood.
A Dickie is a make-believe turtleneck that you stick inside your shirt that only has.
Oh, okay. I know what you're talking about
So you're
now.
listening at a turtleneck, but if you took your shirt off, it's just a thing around your neck that hangs down, and,
Yep.
and you hide behind your shirt.
Yep.
If you want to see the most iconic use of a Dickie in film, watch Christmas Vacation. And there's a part.
I've seen Christmas Vacation.
There's a part in which they're dressing
Chevy
up for the
Chase.
Christmas dinner, and Cousin Eddie comes out, and he's got a light shirt and a black Dickie, so you can actually see the square under the white shirt. It's fantastic. I'm sure you can Google that as well. So.
Well, and I think for everyone who knows Christmas Vacation, I totally get that. But if they're looking for a more modern Dickie, Howard Wolowitz from Big Bang Theory, the reason when she said that, I was like, Howard Wolowitz from the Big Bang Theory wore it all the time. So
I love Howard's skinny pants and his thick belts, and I think he's fantastic.
You know what? I didn't look. I look too much like a walrus, but I never could wear bell bottoms.
Okay, see, and I grew up in the era of Junko jeans and bell bottoms and baggy graphic t-shirts, and now they're apparently making a comeback, and I just don't understand why, because they just are terrible.
Well, because they're retro. You know what's worse than bell bottoms though? I hate parachute pants. Remember those nylon parachute pants?
And they swish everywhere.
Oh yeah, I felt like I was in a saran wrap.
I didn't need anything in 1972. I didn't, or 76 or whenever that was. I didn't need anything to add 50 pounds to my stature.
Well, I'll even date myself. It's like when I was a kid, they weren't jeans; they were dungarees. I wore dungarees. Gosh.
That's funny because one of my favorite lines we talked about movies on one of the episodes, and I said that my favorite movie of all time was Holiday Inn with Bing Crosby. But there's this manager guy, and that's one of the lines that he has in the film. He's talking about, he's kind of throwing shade at the dungarees set. He's like, "Oh, you're going to be part of the dungarees
because you're not dressed.
You're
properly,
not dressed as a gentleman, exactly." So.
Right.
Well, we've talked for 15 minutes about fashion right now, guys.
We are
because we are experts.
Because
on
we
this.
are icons when it comes to trends and fashions.
Except this podcast is about the music we love and the industry and business we tolerate.
And the clothes we're afraid to wear.
I think this podcast has become about the music we like and the friends we tolerate.
or how about this? I don't even know.
Play another track.
Yeah, let's play another tune. This is another one by Gabrielle. This one she had featured another artist, Logan Pilcher, and it's a throwback from a few months back, and it's called "Good Without the Bad." Let's check it out.
Every time I move, I see a different view. It's not like I remember as a kid. The trees aren't that tall, the mystery of it all. Will the dreams that I have now fade away? As time rolls by, I'm figuring out. It seems like the good times let me down.
was a man who lived where the water ran, and he watched the time drift by like the waves. And with his dying words, a blessing and a curse, he said there is no good without the bad. As time rolls by, I'm figuring out, it seems like the good times let me down. But I wanna taste, I wanna see, look to the depths, cry with me, some sort of truth, hopefully peace. Ooh. I wanna taste, I wanna see, look to the depths, cry with me, some sort of truth, hopefully peace. Time rolls by, I'm figuring out, it seems like the good times let me down. I wanna taste, I wanna see, look to the depths, cry with me, some sort of truth, hopefully peace. I wanna taste, I wanna see, look to the depths, cry with me, some sort of truth, hopefully peace.
What I like about her is like every song she's had, for me, it's been catchy. Like
Hooky,
there are
yep.
songs sometimes like you have to play over and over and over again to get into, but like the Good Without the Bad and the one that we played in the beginning, We'll Be All Right. Like you just bop your head to it and it kind of gets you into the beat like immediately.
Yeah, but you know what I get? But not to me in a forced way.
No, yeah,
You know,
like
it wasn't like she's forcing to try to write a hit song. She just has this way about writing something that seems to be just something you want to hear again, you know, that you really kind of like.
I was telling you guys before we started that I was listening to the tracks on the way here from someplace else before we started the podcast, and was down in the kitchen. I was listening in the car, went into the kitchen, and pulling something out of the cabinet, I was like, ba da 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 da. You know, I was like kind of
Well, you have a car. You have a
Humming.
car in the kitchen.
no. What did I say?
You have a drive-through kitchen.
No, I left the car in the driveway and I went into the kitchen and I pulled something out of the cabinet and I was actually humming the kind of the lead line. So I thought, wow, that's cool. I mean, that's a prerequisite for something being sticky or hooky or catchy or
Right.
however you'd like to describe it. Which brings me to a very strange thing that I'd like to discuss this week. All right. So has this ever happened to you, or am I just losing my mind? Have you ever been out running errands and hear something on the radio or have something have something streaming, and then you will leave the car, maybe go in and do some shopping, or you'll run your errand, you'll maybe spend an hour or so away from the car. As you're walking in a parking lot, any given parking lot, and you get ready to enter the car, have you ever started humming the song that you were listening to an hour ago? And then when you get in the car and the radio comes back on, or the stream comes back on, or the CD comes back on, you had not lost your place and you're right in the same place of the track that you were before you left the car?
No.
I want to say no, but I feel like probably that's happened.
I don't know if I
It's-
described it
It's
appropriately.
never
but
happened to anyone.
No, it happens
No,
to me a
okay.
lot, and it's bizarre. I think it's just how our brains work. But
What I will say is I will leave the car listening to one song on the radio, and like there have been a handful of times where I've gotten back in and the same song's playing like an hour, 2 hours later. And for me, it's kind of like, okay, cool if I like the song, and if not, it's like, do they have nothing better to play?
well, that's based on the rotation. But
Yeah.
I'm just saying that if I'm listening to a CD or if I'm listening to a tape, I basically I think my brain somehow remembers. My brain somehow remembers where the track was. So when I get back in the car and I turn the car on, it's like I haven't lost any time. It's just a bizarre.
You have a car?
Greg, I think on this one you are just that special.
I don't
No,
know.
I think you're right. I think it's how your brain works, and like subconsciously, you just know when you left, and there's a connection. Yeah, I guess that happens.
I actually have a car. We recently purchased a car, kind of I think they call them a beater. We recently purchased a car and it has a cassette player in it.
Ooh.
$1,000 and it's got 260,000.
I think it's called a
miles.
jalopy.
Yeah. It's but it's got a cassette player in it. So I'm now,
Yeah, you gotta go buy
scouring. I'm scouring the Goodwills for cassette.
It's got a turntable.
They used to have that.
So we had some rants. We were going to rant today too. Didn't you want to rant a little bit, Nicole?
I did.
Don't, Nicole. People don't like it when people rant.
No,
on
Well, no, it's
podcasts.
not really a rant. It's more of a general observation. Because Carl had kind of alluded to it before Greg went on his tangent.
Carl rants all the time.
But before Greg went on his tangent with talking about getting out of the car and coming back in and being in the same place that the music was.
The time continuum.
The time continuum.
The
of
musical
music.
time continuum.
But we are still in the middle of this COVID pandemic.
Right.
And recently, I've just been observing in conversations and how people are showing up on social media, and that we're almost at a time, especially in the music industry, where I personally am seeing that it's basically a make or break. The line's kind of been drawn in the sand, and artists are starting to either get burnt out or they just can't do it anymore. And we're starting to see that there are cracks happening in a few of the places where artists are really just not knowing what the future is going to hold for them, which I think weighs heavily on it. But Carl, you brought up a good analogy beforehand about being famous or whatnot. And I think it kind of applies to it being right now, because I think so many people are in it to try and get famous. But why don't you kind of talk a little bit about what you brought up before?
I often thought of this myself, just when I was, trying to be an artist. Like right now, if there was a decree where like you could still do music, but they removed all the fame possibility and all the money possibility from it, that it would just be a regular thing you did, like a bus driver.
Bus drivers still get paid.
Well, okay, but they removed the celebrity and the riches from it. You could just get a job, but it wouldn't be anything special. How many people would still do it? And I think it would considerably, weed out the herd, if you ask me, and then you see who's really into this because it's part of them. Because I think a lot of people do this, I'm sorry, because they want to be famous, they want to be special, they want to be rich, it's not because they really want to be an artist, they just think it's better than having to go work at a job, That's where I started it. That's what I loved about John Lennon. They asked him, why do you want to do this? He goes, so he didn't have to work and he can meet girls. He had no lofty, anything about it, like wanted to be some deep poet or anything. But anyway.
I think anybody that spends time as a creative person, I don't think a lot of people are in it for fame or for riches. I think that because it's too damned difficult. It's very, very, very hard to, kind of follow your passion and kind of like make music or paint paintings or be a sculptor. I mean, you're setting yourself up for a ton of
So are
disappointment.
you telling me you don't think that that's why they do it, to be famous and rich? Are you kidding me?
I
You're
think
totally
there's-
wrong.
I think
You're
there-
totally wrong.
I think that poses.
I know you're 100% wrong. I would say
Nope.
95% of the people
And I'll tell you
who try
why.
to do this to be rich and famous. I think it's like JFK. JFK just became president because his father wanted him to be
He
president.
was born famous.
No, but I'm saying, he like became great, in the job. I'm sorry, I disagree with you totally.
I just don't believe that anybody that is practicing creative endeavors, trying to make a living doing it, I don't believe that many of them think that they're ever going to get rich or they're ever going to get famous. And
I'm not talking about artists. I'm talking about musicians, rock and like to get a record deal.
I just don't see it. And you know why? Because I think that faction of people, they've been replaced. These artists that might have, put a record out or tried to make a record or tried to be a singer in a local band or whatever the case may be, those people found out pretty quickly it's an incredibly difficult thing to do. However, there is a way to get reasonably famous and make a little money, and you don't have to have any particular talent. And that's this whole influencer culture, right? So, I mean, I think that those people replaced all these artists that you're talking about that are seeking fame and fortune.
I'm sorry, I disagree. Everyone down in Music Row now playing those gigs, playing those bars, writing those songs, doing co-writes, they all want to be famous.
Well, and
none of them are just. I'm just telling you I know it. I did it. And I knew a million guys who were doing it too. And everyone was doing the same thing. I'd be backstage with all these other bands, all those other guys, and everybody in every club and every band I was in, everybody wanted to be successful, wanted to be famous. No one's just doing it for the love of the art of being a poor musician because they want to express some stupid song.
Well, I think we actually have 2 new questions of the week we'll have to pose in the coming weeks to kind of figure out where this debate of are they in it to be famous or not?
Debate. I'll make one of my ridiculous pronouncements. Anyone who will say they're not in it because of that is full of shit, and that's it. If they say anyone who says, well, because you didn't do it, I did it.
No,
and I know everyone who did it.
But you're a focus group of one. My point is,
I didn't talk to anybody. You think I've been doing it for 30 years? I met a million people.
What I'm trying to say is that
what are you trying to say?
I think that artists, all the artists that I've ever met that have
none of them are artists.
Years working on their craft are songwriters, for example. The songwriters that I've met that are really amazing at their craft, they're all incredibly self-conscious about, notoriety. They're self-conscious about performing. They're self-conscious about, if you.
Oh, that's some bullshit. Every time I've gone to the Bluebird, all these guys do is drop names of who cut their song. It's bullshit.
It might be a little ego, but I don't think any of them.
They're all on their
be,
list. They're like, oh, this is when I cut Johnny Cash.
So you think they got into it because they want to be rock stars?
No, well, they got into it because they wanted to be successful, and then they got successful, and they did it, and now after the fact, there's 2 reasons to be into deep kind of artist kind of people. I know I'm getting crazy here, but this is I believe this. It's either like they passed it and they didn't make it, so then now that's their rationale. Well, I'm an artist, and they buy into that older, unknown artist. Everyone, when they start out, wants to do it because they want to be successful in it. They don't just do it because of the love of what they're doing solely, and that's it. It may develop into something more down the road, but when you're doing it in the beginning, when you're really striving, the goal is to get the hit record or get the big cut, and so you can make a living and you can buy the house, and have a great life. That's the point.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know.
No, it's a fact.
To be continued.
No, it's a fact. End of story.
It's going to be, regardless of what Carl's saying, I'm going to make it a question of the week.
No, because I love to hear what people say. Because then you'll get all these guys because I love when I hear famous guys talk about it. well, no, man, I was just into it. You're like David Bowie, who I love, but he'll pontificate about, well, when I was into this,
Well, Bowie now, that's a different animal because I've recently watched a few documentaries on
all
Bowie.
he wanted was fame.
Because that's exactly right. He was in it for the fame, for the fortune, and
once he got it,
he became a rock star. A film I saw recently, he became a rock star by virtue of his manager putting the perception out there that he was a rock star, and they were deeply in debt for several years into his career. After he'd had
he tried on
Space Oddity,
6 or 7 different personalities,
exactly,
different
and they
styles.
were spending bukus of money. He was flat broke, and he was a rock star. So I mean that. But yeah, I think that's well established that
I'm
Bowie
not saying that he's not
wanted
great.
to be a rock
and also,
star.
another thing too, a perfect example. I just read the Dylan biography, and you think Dylan was this? He's not. He just wanted to be rich and famous, and like it's like it's all these perceptions. We think it's all this purist and this artistry and stuff. It's not. Yes, if you're just writing your songs, if you just want to write your songs, then write your songs, and sit and play them in your house or to your friends. But as soon as you make a demo and you send it somewhere, that's it.
So what about the people that have been extraordinarily successful and are actually, kind of embarrassed by their success? Have you ever met anybody like that? I have. I've met a ton of writers.
Well, I hate them. Because how dare you insult us? Because we're all trying to do this, and you have the luck, or because it's all luck. Very few people are actually brilliant. I know I'm ranting tonight, but I'm sorry. Very few people are really brilliant. So if you're lucky enough to get a song cut or to have a big career and you have a lot of success, shut up. Be gracious and accept it, and how dare you? You're embarrassed by it. Who the hell are you? Shut up and give the money back.
I'm just not going to give the money back. Well, I'll say this.
Quit.
I'm somewhat embarrassed by everything I've accomplished.
I hate about who said something like that.
That was
Kurt Cobain. Kurt Cobain claimed, oh man, he was anti-corporate rock and all this kind of nonsense, and he was embarrassed by the success they had. Then stop. Making records. Then stop. You're so full of shit. That's what I'm saying. You're full of shit. I hate to say it.
This is a very explicit podcast tonight.
Well, no, because you hit a nerve to me
I think we've hit a nerve.
I didn't even mean to hit a nerve with that.
Hey, Carl, you need to come up with a sound effect for hitting a nerve with you.
I think if you're making this business, it's so hard to make it that if you have the luck and all that stuff, what you do, be grateful, share it, do something positive with it, but to be embarrassed of it, drop dead. How dare you? Because there are a million guys that are starving, that are probably just as worthy as you, but you were lucky enough to get the break.
Well, I do think that is a good point, that when you get to that level of success, that being embarrassed by it almost can be a slap in the face, especially because the industry is so big and there are so many people who are trying to make it.
Because it's phony.
What about humility? What about being humble about your success? Is that bullshit too?
No, but I think
being humble, that's different.
There's difference, yeah. Being embarrassed means you truly are uncomfortable with the success that you've had and you just don't know what to do about it. Being humble just means that you are down to earth. You understand that you've had this success, but you're not trying to have ego around it and throw it around in people's faces.
All right. Did we have a question of the week this week?
No, we had no question of the week.
Okay, cool.
So we have to get out of the episode.
Yeah.
Anyway, so that was a pretty crazy episode. I'm sorry I went off, guys. Sometimes you hit a nerve, and sometimes I kind of you spark a little, whatever, and I go nuts.
We're just introducing our audience to the other side of Carl, the Carl that we know and adore.
We all have that side, and I do have this ridiculous way. I have to admit that
if you'd like to cancel Carl, go to 94twenty.
I do have this ridiculous way of saying no. There's no argument. This is it. It's a fact. It's wrong. It's over. There's no discussion.
But that's what makes you Carl.
Very, very mature attitude. A wise man.
Let's get some 9420 t-shirts and we can have different sayings like on the back of one, don't be a Carl.
Don't be a Carl.
Right. You can make them.
We could.
Anyway.
All right, everyone. Thanks so much for joining us up this episode of the 9420 podcast. For all of the links to the items and topics discussed, please go to the website 94twenty.com. That is the numbers 94 and the letters TWENTY.com. Until next time, we'll talk to y'all later.
Goodbye.
Toodles.